Hello, everyone!
Woohoo!
Welcome to the Midnight VIP experience. We lost the lasers and the stage with the synthesizer, so it's just us now. Thank you for being here. I'm Tyler. I'm going to talk a little bit about how this thing started, and then answer any questions that you have. Maybe we'll sing a little bit, if that works. It's a small group. You guys seem sturdy. Also, I've only played smaller venues in Omaha. This is an incredibly nice venue. You guys are very fortunate to have such a nice space here. So, it's very rare. So, you never know if it's a good sound or a bad sound. This is pretty good. I met Tim McEwen in 2012. April of 2012, he was trying to be a pop songwriter, producer, and I was trying to be employed in music in any way that I could get away with it. And we met each other. I was listening to a lot of Mumford & Sons at the time, and Tim was listening to a lot of Swedish House Mafia. And we started writing songs. We didn't know where we would fit together. The first song that we wrote is called We Move Forward. And I don't know what it's about. I just had a moment when I was reading about Walt Whitman and how he just described the images. He didn't tell you what it was about. And after having been kind of a country Americana songwriter for a long time, I just thought, well, it sounds nice to just write an image. So that's what this song was, and it came pretty quickly. Sun in my eyes and gold shining in the girl, braids in her hair. Steady breeze, you know I was falling, I would fall anyway. Sky turned gray and the flash flood warning. She smiled, she took my hand. She kissed my lips and the rain came pouring. So I heard a marching band. We moved forward, 'cause we got no back. 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 Hanging out of a third-story window, you were a sight to see. Like just a bit till the wind blows, roll back the tide for me. That was the first song we wrote. It happened pretty quickly. Tim, if I was on the keyboard, I would play bum ba da dum bum ba da da dum bum bum. And I wrote a verse to that, and then I said, Tim, you need to write something else so that I can write a chorus to that. And he said, no, just write it over the verse part. And I said, you can't do that. It breaks the rules. And he said, try it. And I did. And that's how the Midnight was started. And we finished that song in the early afternoon. And he said, do you have any other songs that you've been working on? Anything in your head? And I said, yeah, I was writing this earlier when I was stuck in traffic in Los Angeles. And I played him, oh, Gloria, I feel so much better, I feel so much better today, with my acoustic guitar that I had. And he was like, can I change the chords just a little bit? And then he got his synthesizer and played bum 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 ba da 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 dum bum 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 bum. And that's how the Midnight started. Really, an East meets West. Like I'm from the South, he was from Copenhagen. An unlikely match, but we really loved writing songs together. And we realized pretty early on that we weren't gonna, write Britney's next hit together. And so we just started to lean into this strange 80s lane that really, it existed in a very, very small corner of the internet. It was FM Attack and Betamax and Future Cop. And Drive was this really nice kind of foundational kind of feeling for us. This you take an action movie that is gritty and violent, and you infuse it with this kind of neon, dreamy, synthy thing that doesn't belong in this place. Something about like The Mandalorian does that too. It's like it's a cowboy show, but it's in the Star Wars universe. It's two very separate things together, and we thought that that was kind of a nice way to think about creativity. So we just did this to please ourselves. You know, the saxophone was not cool in 2013. We would, you know, have 7-minute long songs. The song Vampires does not say the word vampires in it. And it doesn't have a chorus, it has a sax solo. So we're breaking all the rules that we were supposed to be following in our day job. This became the kind of side thing. This was our musical affair that we were just enjoying together. And we put out 2 records just because we enjoyed doing it. And finally, that small corner of the internet found us, and now we have our dream jobs. But Days of Thunder was released 10 years ago this summer. So this is kind of our, like, I cannot believe the first song we wrote was We Move Forward, because we can't go back. In 10 years in, you're like, yeah, that was all true. Cannot go back. But yeah. Any questions at this point? Yes, hi.
Great to see you again. Thanks for coming to Omaha to save me on travel.
Omaha's a really chill city. It's really nice. What's your question?
Now, back at your Hollywood Palladium show,
oh yeah,
I asked you if you guys were going to be doing Avalanche that tour, and you said you tried it once and it didn't go over well, but Heroes wasn't out yet. So have you tried playing Avalanche to the crowd yet? Because I think it'd be great to add back to your set.
We haven't. You'll notice the set tonight is it's shorter by about 2 songs, and it's kind of a critical length. So we try and keep it as close to here as possible. For a longer dynamic set, we were pushing 2 hours in Europe because we were headlining and we had no time constraints. I think we'll probably bring Avalanche back out. I really like that song.
I'd love to hear live.
You were a whisper in the night. I loved you for a summer, and now that garden of delight hides under snow cover. Sail on in my memory. I would wait from the shoreline, a ship so grand you could not believe, disembarking on Avalanche, butterfly wing. I forget the rest of it. That song
Thank you.
Did I explain the origin of that song?
Yeah, because I asked you the origin and you explained it at that show. Yeah.
Right. I remember that. Yeah, we would love to play Avalanche live. To update you, we wrote another record. We called it Syndicate. We'll see if it comes out in that form under that name or not. But it wasn't good enough when we finally previewed it together.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in March. I didn't have the pathos. It was a cool exercise. It was dark and brutal.
Mm-hmm.
A very, very cool creative experiment, but it lived here and not here.
Yeah.
It needs to live here. So we opened the songwriting book back up in March, and we have another 15 to 20 songs to add to that 15 songs. So we have no idea what the next record is going to look like. We might Beatles White Album it and just go, you figure it out, here you go. But we feel very grateful that at this time in our career we have the chance to pump the brakes and go, well,
Yeah.
in the beginning we had 4 songs, so we released 4 songs.
Yeah.
And now we feel a heavy sense of duty to honor our fan base that has given us everything that we've ever wanted in our careers. And I'm sorry that it's taken so long, but it's going to be a good one when it comes out.
It'll be worth the wait.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hi.
What song means the most to you that you've released?
Oh my God.
Like on a personal level.
Probably Lost and Found. It's one of those. Tim was not in the room. Tim and I were just still co-writing. It wasn't called The Midnight when the song was written. But I had moved from Atlanta after a bad breakup in 2011 to Los Angeles, and was there for 6 months, and the story's too long for today, but I found my person. She's the mother of my 6-year-old. I fly home on Friday night to see her, and I just met her at the time when that song was written. And the first line of it is, "When you find your love, you'll find your song." And it just felt so true, and it just fell out of space and landed in my lap. And I thought, yeah, this is real. This is a real magical story that is unfolding in real time, and it's nice. Songs are a way to kind of take pictures of emotions in time, and it's really nice to kind of have a relationship with them as time continues, because they, sometimes get sweeter and sometimes get sour. Comeback Kid is one of those songs that was written very quickly. Didn't have any thoughts about it at the time. I was trying to beat the deadline for the mixing of the record, and over the course of COVID and having a new child, and my wife went through a battle with cancer last year, and it's just amazing how something that you just had no idea, you couldn't put that much feeling or emotion into the thing. It just existed, and then it's become true over time. So songs are even ones that don't feel that emotional, like Jason. It's just really weird as time goes on what anchors hit you in interesting ways. But Lost and Found is kind of the most true. It's like a kind of a foundational law for us. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hi.
By any chance more solo stuff is gonna come out from you? Like my personal favorite song here is Ditch Digger and Brooklyn.
Thank you.
So,
We should play Brooklyn. Yeah, it's funny. I couldn't sleep last night. I've done a good job on tour. This is a 7-week tour, which is a long time. And this is our second to last show. So everything's going to be great on stage, and our mind is going to be But I couldn't sleep last night, and I woke up, and I finally wrote down all my plans. So once I get home, there's a 40-song record that I've been working on for a long time. I turn 40 next December. It's called The Transcendentalist. I put a small portion of it out on the internet earlier this year. But I intend to finish it. I'll do kind of a proper condensed version. I'll call that The Transcendentalist, and then I'll call the 40 track thing the Fragments of the Transcendentalist, or something like that. It's like a B-side demos, sketches, ambient tracks. I'm working, I'm writing. There's some really good songs that I'm really proud of. You wouldn't think it, but Cancer provides good fodder for songwriting. A lot of thoughts on the Cancer Award that you don't have as a 22-year-old starving artist who just moved to LA. So I feel so grateful that path is open, and I haven't been able to be home for this stretch of time. This year we've traveled a lot, so my studio's in the right spot, and it's waiting for me. So
your wife?
My wife is great. We just got our 4th clear scan back, and she's crushing it. Can't wait to see her.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, let's play Brooklyn. This song was written because when you move from Los Angeles to Brooklyn, it's really hard. There's traffic on the bridge, but the skyline shines with a certain light, and I know you're sick of it, but I know how happy I will need you by, and there's a possibility that one day things will get better for the masses in between the shadows and the stars, floating empire held up my frame while I would call even winter like a dead by the fire. When the rent's too out, just buy cheaper wine and hang on the sea of weather constellations hold together all night. Actually, I have a question for you. So I did some solo shows in the Southeast a couple years ago, kind of around the same time I was doing DJ sets for the midnight. And I enjoyed the DJ sets, but I showed up to these kind of folk clubs in Florida and played songs that I've written outside of midnight. And everyone in the stand was a Midnight fan. And they were totally bored for the hour that I played. And I'm curious how to kind of like integrate that, because I would love to tour, and I mean these are all songs that I've written. Some are just washed with neon, and some are played on a banjo. But I am curious about how the best way to kind of bridge those two worlds is, or if separate is better.
I would say, I mean, I obviously found out about the Midnight first, but I've always liked that kind of folk sound, like Mumford and Sons and whatnot. So when I found out that you had a solo thing, I was like, okay, I'll give it a listen. And then I just started catching myself every day, instead of playing the Midnight, playing your songs. And yeah, it's like relaxing. I think that music would perform well at like the Fine Line.
The Fine Line.
In like Minneapolis, like smaller venues like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I like Omaha. Love to spend time here any way I can.
Come to Iowa.
Come to Iowa. Where are you guys in Iowa?
Des Moines.
Des Moines. That's a good show. It's in Des Moines. And Ames. Ames is a cool town.
Yep.
Cool. Anybody else? Hi. You guys are so polite. I love it. Yes, hi.
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little starstruck right now.
Don't be.
So I know that like you've talked about the song that means the most to you, but have you and Tim ever had a song where like it was really difficult to write, or like you guys went back and forth on, or just it took a long time to like get it perfect?
The Midnight is kind of born in this editing collaboration phase. So oftentimes, Lost Boy was an example. It was initially called In the Dark. It was a collaboration between Tim and myself and a Finnish DJ named Minnow. And it's very housey and it's very interesting. But Tim, in his wisdom, picked out I Was a Lost Boy When I Met You, and that became the chorus. He did a vocal chop, and that was the heart of the song. There are a lot of songs that take years to complete, and that was one of them. Shadows, 17. It's funny. My work process is go to the chair and sit for 6 hours, and if something good happens, then good. If something bad happens, then good. If nothing happens, then good. You just show up every day, because you can't control the output from the input. You can only control the time. Tim is the opposite. If he has something to work on, he will get his fine-tooth comb and he will work on a song for a year until you take it away from him and say, no more edits. And in that way we work really well together, because I'm a good starter and I have lots of material on the front end, and Tim is the filter. He's kind of the quality control for this thing. So, yes, Lost Boy and Shadows, yeah, those are two that took a while. Yes?
I did want to say you're wrong about the saxophone. It's sexy. Oh,
It's always been sexy. We thought so.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, how do you pivot from this Americana meets the house in that to incorporate the sax? Or did he kind of bring that with him?
It was a question. This was in the beginning when we were just dreaming things up, and he said, will the saxophone work here? And I was like, probably not, let's try it. And he had a friend back in Denmark who played sax on the early stuff. And it was just so cool, yeah. I don't know, most of the credit goes to Tim, because he's kind of the sonic master of this realm, but yeah, the saxophone. Now it's cool, everybody's got a saxophone. It used to be if you were a saxophonist, now you were a lonely, yeah, are you? Yeah. Have the gigs picked up a little bit lately in the last 5 years?
I'm a saxophone.
Yeah, I don't know. We like the saxophone. We'll bring it back. Not in the quantity that everyone will be happy with, but we'll sprinkle it in here and there. Yes?
So I'm glad you went first, because I was wanting to get so impressed. I'm so glad. So I know that I've noticed with like most of your albums, there's like a different feel to every single one of them.
Sure.
There's like a different. Yeah. It's the same thread, but it's all like dressed up differently.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know what your like, if you could pinpoint what that kind of feels like to find the voice of the album within your guys' writing and editing process, but as well as like what are your feelings now about the new sound of like Chariot? Because I really like Chariot.
Cool.
And so I just wondered what it was like to come up with that when it sounds like completely different. Also with Heroes, like that sounded completely different, and just I really appreciate the variety of everything. So I want to know what that's.
Thank you for being the one that appreciates the variety. Somebody asked, "What do you do about all the comments on Reddit?" I'm like, I don't read.
Block Reddit from your history.
I don't know. I'm just glad people show up. I mean, we'll continue to make music, but we will make somebody angry every time, and that's inevitable. But we put out the first two records not knowing what this was, and then Nocturnal became Tim's kind of love for Terminator and that kind of soundtrack. And then after Nocturnal, Tim called me one evening and said, "Hey, I think our next record's called Kids. I think it's about optimism." He's like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, I haven't told you, but Anna is pregnant and we're going to have a kid." So that became, I mean, in his world, it was about, you know, the death of the promise of capitalism in the 80s, but also kind of being very young and trying to develop self-knowledge. It was a very optimistic record, even in the shadow of the darkness. But I didn't have enough time to make that record big because I was in the delivery room and then not sleeping. So we decided to make Kids into 3 parts. And so we had enough time to kind of think about what kind of story we wanted to tell. And the long answer is we spent 6 years on the Kids trilogy. So that took up a lot of time. Kids was always about the development of self-knowledge. Monsters was always about the development of self-love. And then Heroes was always about the development of empathy. You need to stack those on top. One is a kid's mind, the other is an adolescent. How much do I give? How much do I love? Are we all one beating heart? You know, why do I feel burned by this relationship? And then Heroes, it was always going to be about empathy. It was always going to shine the spotlight and diffuse it away from our main character and onto other people. But it was written in the depths of the pandemic, and we really missed playing songs live. And there was so much good fodder from the kind of 80s hair metal and Bon Jovi and Van Halen. We thought a synth rock record would be fun, and it was. And so the record that we have written that you haven't heard yet, Syndicate, is a very kind of return to form of the Nocturnal, a lot of like Euro 90s dance music influences in it. It sounds really cool. Chariot is from that pile. So we have a lot of songs that will slowly release as singles. But it's very important for Tim that everything have a sonic imprint, and it's very important for me that every world feel kind of distinct. Unless we fight too much about the track list, then we'll just go, toss it into the air and say, just call it The Midnight, maybe. So we're thinking about it. It matters to him in different ways, and it matters to me in different ways. Yes?
I think what I love, and I completely agree with the different themes and their albums. I love the Tim, like the facts that you can listen to each album all the way through and feel the same. I think like some B-side stuff would be really cool too. So it's not really a question, but I think I can speak for pretty much everyone that's gonna be here tonight. That we like the Midnight. So the stuff that you guys write is cool. I think some of that stuff could be shown.
So you're saying you want B-sides. That's what I'm hearing.
Here's your unfinished dissonant
Yeah.
bullshit. Is what we want.
Yeah.
You want one.
Disagree.
Because it's such a production-heavy project. We have a lot of demos from the early stuff that just sounds vastly different than what we put out. But in the early days, we just didn't have much time together. We lived still on opposite ends of the country. So initially, there wasn't a lot of fat on bone. Now there's a lot, and we'll see how we release it. But thank you for that. It would be cool to have a Midnight B-Sides record out there somewhere. Yeah.
Kind of bouncing off of your question. One of my first songs that I listened to was Beyond Medusa. So how was Horror Show born?
Horror Show was a call from Amazon Music. We were about to release Monsters imminently. It was like a week away, and they called us and said, "Would you do a Halloween album?" This was like June or July. And we said, well, that would mean we'd have to write this in 6 weeks. And we had a question of like, well, what would that even possibly look like? And we left a little kind of figure on the static of the television in the monster's bedroom. And I started thinking about, well, what was on that television? Like, what was it for me? And it was kind of when I was 10, I had this old tube TV that you had to tune with change the channel with a screwdriver, and it was like the black and white, like Dark Shadows or like Tales from the Crypt, or those kind of like very late night old TV shows. And we wrote it from that angle. Like, what is it kind of? It's a horror show, but it's melodramatic. It's not Terrifier 2. It's something else, like Devil Make a Deal or Good and Red. Like, these are kind of tropes that are from melodrama on that TV set. So we finished it very quickly. We had the help of another producer, Essinger, who had helped to keep things organized. But yeah, that's how it came together. It was really fun doing it all quickly. Yeah.
Well, great work in such a short amount of time.
Thank you. Well, it's probably a good exercise to try again.
Being a fan of both your music and the Midnight's music is really fun because I get to see the track list of the new Midnight albums and seeing your music on there.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to get to see how you guys transform that and make it feel so much different from your original song.
Cool.
How do you choose which one of those go through that transformation?
Whatever tells the best story. You can plagiarize from yourself, it turns out. And a lot more people are going to hear what's played on this stage with the lights than in a small folk club or coffee shop with my acoustic guitar. So we're world building in real time, and whatever makes that world richer is what makes the cut. Yeah, thank you.
When's the next ARG going to be?
All right. Okay, so we just signed to Ultra Records. This is the first time we've signed to like a big label. It's owned by Sony. It's a dance label. It's a good term. Like, it's short. We're big enough not to have to sell our souls to the devil. Not that Sony's the devil. But the ARG has been talked about. I just saw the label president in New York a few weeks ago, and we have resources. We have really smart people, really creative people, and we are stoked about whatever the next ARG looks like, because it'll be bigger and better than anything we could do in our 4-person team.
I don't know, you guys did pretty good.
Well, I mean, you guys expanded the team to like hundreds of people around the world. That was such a mind-blowing experience. But yeah, the next one should have some teeth behind it. Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah.
Now, with your graphic novel, if it exceeds expectations, any chance maybe you might do a Kickstarter and do like a heavy metal style video with it, maybe a 5 to 15 minute, take a portion of it?
Maybe.
I think that would be huge. Try that Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And see.
Try a Kickstarter. The label wouldn't like us doing a Kickstarter.
They would like it because then they don't have to pay for it.
That's true. Yeah, the graphic novel is super cool. I don't know if we have any to sell tonight or not, but we're very proud of it. It kind of was developed around the same time that we were thinking through Syndicate. So a lot of the themes cross over. Chariot is like a car, a main, like a kind of a kit Knight Rider kind of situation in the graphic novel. Jason is the main character. We figure out what he's chasing after all these years. But it was a blast to kind of. The Midnight is little 4-minute songs into a world. This is like, okay, start from scratch. What is the world? What is the Midnight? What are we doing here? What's the hero's journey? What is the epic? What's the myth? That was a blast to create. So we're very proud of it. If you can get your hands on it, it's really good. I'm biased, but yeah. Anybody else?
Just thinking about your question earlier about doing your solo stuff.
Yeah.
Having disappointed fans that aren't getting the Midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, you're inextricable from the Midnight. Like, it's
Thank
not
you.
what it is without you. But I'd say lean into that, but be forward about the Americana that you're bringing to the people that folks see this.
Yeah.
I guess just be like, have a good one. My thing is this.
Right. I like it. I mean, I think with a creative set of people on stage, you could do it like an acoustic midnight set with the cello and some fun instruments like.
You did.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was a blast. Yeah, Rearview Mirror was a blast.
Or just break away from the show proper. Be like, guys, give me a sec.
Let me get my acoustic guitar. Let me get my banjo, guys.
And then enjoy it.
It's
Kind of do what you want.
it's a good lesson in how you present something. It's the same voice, it's the same songs, but one has a banjo in it, and one has a synthesizer in it, and one attracts and one repels, depending on who you are. And it's really fascinating as the person who likes both banjos and synthesizers. Maybe I'll just disappoint everyone and do like an EP that's really heavy on synth
It's a
and
metal
banjos.
album.
Metal album? I mean, Royce is quite the metalhead. He's we should do a metal album. That sounds like a fun week or two.
Got time for one more time.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
How's Tim doing?
Tim's great. Thank you for asking. That's good. Yeah, Tim's ear was getting worse. He's always been a producer first, and as we started touring live, got his drum chops up, and his tinnitus got worse, and he always was happiest in the producer's chair. So it kind of became a question of, well, do you want to be the drummer for the Midnight Live on stage for 2 more tours and then quit music forever? Or do you want to take care of yourself, your mental and physical health, and be able to produce this music as the producer of the Midnight for as long as you guys will allow us to do it? And that's the obvious choice. That's how this thing is sustainable. So Quay is on drums tonight, and he is an absolute ripper of a drummer, and it's going to be an amazing show, and we couldn't be happier to be here in Omaha with you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Thank you, Tyler.
Tyler Lyle, ladies and gentlemen. So some quick announcements. For those of you that purchased the up-close tier of the VIP, you should receive a purple wristband. Please raise your hands for me. Great. If you folks wouldn't mind coming right down here, front and center. And then